This is the video everybody's been asking for in my comments. The three-way shootout between the rolling knife sharpeners starts now. Will it be the worksharp rolling knife sharpener with its two-wheeled lower belly design? How about the Hone sexy all aluminum knife sharpener, or will it be the Tumbler? Thanks for joining in, and I am as excited to do this as I know you're going to be excited watching this. These are the three names you're seeing in the rolling sharpener world. There's a fourth one I'm going to talk about as well, but I want to let you know what I'm doing when it comes to these reviews. I'm not paid to do these type of shootout reviews. In many cases, I do get shipped products to do the review because I'm honest, I'm forthright with you. I'm going to tell you what I think. I'll tell you the good and the areas of improvement. I don't like using the word bad. I think bad is very subjective, and I think it gets a negative connotation on something that it's bad, so it really isn't going to get better. I think when it comes to product development, I've done consulting for companies for many years in the technology world and in the product development world. And one of the things that's important is knowing where you release a product and realize that after the release, there are things that you could have done or should have done that you didn't know, because you can't possibly test every scenario, especially people that abuse products. You see a lot of comments in areas where somebody says something's not good or it did this or did that. When you really dig into it, it's really the user error or the user creating the problem. When I talk about something where there's an area of improvement, you're going to hear why. I know for a fact that I've used all these for extensive amounts of time. And the first one that I used was the Tumbler. Then I went on to the Hone, and then worksharp, brand new rolling knife sharpener that came to the market just a few weeks ago prior to me making this video. But I had this in my hands. I've used it extensively. You'll see that all these are very well used. I think that doing a review on something and not really putting it to the paces and understanding the product and the areas where it excels and the areas where there can be improvement really is a disservice to people when they're doing product reviews. And I've seen a lot of them on YouTube, and they really lack a lot of things that I wish they would have talked about. The other thing that I want to comment on is very important because people have asked me, why aren't you telling me what to buy? I think that's a personal decision. I think telling somebody, you should buy this, or you should buy this, or this, isn't really something that I should be doing. I think I can tell you that I love this. I would absolutely buy this. I recommend this if you're looking for a specific type of sharpener or kitchen appliance or barbecue when I'm doing my cooking. We're gonna get into this review, and one of the things I want to talk about are these $500 knives. They're $5, Amazon. Actually, by the way, if you want a knife to really just jack up and screw up, get this, $5 on Amazon. I'll drop a link below. I got these because I wanted to really do some damage to these knives, and I'm gonna show you the damage I'm gonna do. And then we're gonna do the exact same thing with each device. And if a device only has one grit, like this, that's all they get. And it's gonna get the same number of strokes as the other devices. So where a device has multiple grits for the discs, such as the Hone and the worksharp, I'm going to take you through the various grits. I will try to do an equivalent grit with those to show apples to apples, but the grits aren't exactly the same. So for example, you have a ceramic and a ceramic, but there's no ceramic here, so I can't show you the ceramic. And I want to get into each unit. There's going to be a lot of talking, but this is to give you guys a really fair evaluation of what I think is going on when it comes to these rolling knife sharpeners. Now, the elephant in the room, Horel. Horel looks to be a great sharpener. It has a very good reputation, a long-standing following with its users, and it is extremely expensive. I had a very extensive discussions with Horel. I actually did a video call with them. Very nice people. And for whatever reason, they did not want to provide a sharpener. Sorry, Horel, but to buy your top of the line and to start buying those discs, it is very expensive, which I would have put them in the shootout. In all fairness, full disclosure, that's the story on Horel. When it comes to Horel, I've looked at the design, I've seen a lot of it online, and I definitely can compare some things that it does not have that this has, and I'll talk about that. Two of these products, which is the Hone right now, has a complete line of discs that they've come out with, and it takes you all the way through the sharpening. Check out my video up here because I just did a huge release on the Hone and the entire sharpening process, which you can watch, where if you want to watch how to sharpen using a rolling knife sharpener, it doesn't matter which one you buy. The one I've done with the Hone takes you through every single step. I explain all the details. Talk about all that. Without further ado, I know you're saying, shut up, get to the shootout. So here we go. Yeah, baby. Now, the three sharpeners on the market are the Tumbler, which was really the first one to hit the major market on Instagram and social media. Then we came out with the Hone, and after the Hone has recently come out, rolling sharpener from worksharp. And all these sharpeners are designed to do the same thing. No thinking sharpening, no skills needed, very simple movement, don't have to worry about the angles, and at the end of the day, you've got something small and compact you can put away, unlike maybe a set of whetstones or another sharpener that's much more complicated to use and takes muscle memory. This does not require muscle memory. It only requires you to use a sharpener, as I've showed people in the video I talked about earlier. So first up, we're going to talk about Tumbler. Tumbler is it's an emotional topic for me because I really liked the product when it first came out, and I'll admit that, and it does work. However, the more that I watched and saw what they were doing on social media and how they were showing the testing on the knives, and time out here, this is the best tester that tests knife sharpening. I'm going to talk about this because this is very important in the shootout. It's also important when you're seeing these marketing videos on social media, and Tumbler has got a massive following. They did a great job on their marketing. Kudos to them, but it wasn't accurate marketing. And the reason I say that is because if you see the test they're doing in the sharpener, they have done the test 1,000 times the wrong way. It's incorrect. They're not using this tester correctly. I think I saw a couple where they may have been close, but I brought that up in a video and I also made some comments, and I think that they may be adjusting how they're doing their testing. But what I wanted to say is, why are you doing that? Just test accurately, honestly, and show what the tests are based on how much you're putting into using the sharpener on a knife. This is a one-trick pony. It is literally a one-trick pony. It is one grit. It's 2,000 equivalent, confirmed by the company. That's all you can do with it. It's also a small head. The magnets on this are absolutely inferior. They're very small, they're very weak, and we're gonna show you that. And you have a 15 and a 20 degree. As of this release, which I know they have a new huge block coming out with different angles, but that's not what this video is about. But that is what I think overall of the Tumbler, and we'll get into some more details, but I wanna give you the overall impression. Next comes the hone. The hone sharpener is definitely a sharpener that was designed from the ground up. This was definitely designed from the ground up, and the hone, while it looks very similar, is not, and we'll talk about that. Number one is manufacturing. Number two on both of these is the interchangeable discs that you can get, which are fantastic. Absolutely was a must in my opinion. And Horrell, which has the discs, are these screw-off pieces that are very expensive. Worksharp doesn't have, I believe, any discs out yet as of this filming. I'd be shocked if they don't have more coming out, because to me, this is like the ultimate in a line you can get of all these discs that people can decide what they want. Knife sharpening is very personal. It's very customized. Everybody has their own way of doing it. Some people use diamond paste or diamond dust. Some people use all sorts of things. And so having a complete line of grits is really critical, because that's the one thing you'll see in a lot of the forums on Facebook, other forums that are knife forums that I'm on, that people are always talking about, I start with this grit, what grit do I do? How did I get that mirror polish? And those are all things that are very personal. Hone, for seeing that, has come out with multiple grits. It comes with a 400 grit, you have a 1,000 grit on the back end. They now also have a 3,000 grit ceramic, and they have a 200 grit coarse. We have a full line of grits that will take us from a super badly damaged knife with 200 grit all the way to the honing, and I can go through the stages. There is a 700 coming out with the hone, so you'll have a 200, a 400, a 700, a 1,000, and a 3,000, and that is all you will need to ever do any knife. Fantastic job, kudos to Hone for that and having that foresight. Worksharp, no doubt, I think is gonna follow this path, I would imagine. But right now they come up with a 320 grit, which is it's a good starting grit. It's considered a coarse grit. I've actually used the 320s most of the time and never really used a 200 until I got the Hone, which I did use for 200, and it was actually necessary, so I find 200 actually a great value. 320 for starting grit for Worksharp, and then they go to the 600 grit. So that's kind of the overview of these three sharpeners. Now when it comes to the holders, you have the Tumbler, which has a wood veneer holder that has this rubber coating and these two very, very small magnets that are not very powerful at all. And when you put this on, it does stick, but it's very easy to move around on these. And you'll see a lot of times, which we'll get into the details, on those videos, a lot of movement in that knife, they're holding the knife down because this holder is underbuilt. And I think that, you know, the new one that came out, their big square block, which I don't have and probably won't, it is a one-trick pony. When it comes to the knife sharpeners, this wood swells up, and there's been a lot of complaints people have actually commented to me on in my comments on my videos with the rolling sharpeners and under sharpeners, that this is locked up, the wood is swollen, and while people may say, well, it wasn't designed to be underwater, you have to think as a manufacturer, what is the user going to screw up? And when it comes to kitchens, water is the enemy. It's going to be everywhere. I have water all over when I'm cooking, boiling water. I'm using the sink water. I may have something here, a marinade I'm doing. If something hits that and gets wet and you don't know it, it's going to swell up. It's wood, and it's going to make the roller useless. I think that that's another area of improvement that can be done when it comes to the Tumbler. In addition, there's no way to interchange the discs. It's only one disc. And this on the backside, which they use to, they say hone, it's absolutely useless. I'm sorry, this is just a flat steel with a swirl in it. I've seen this before on other things, but it really may just cut off the burr, but that's not really what I want to do when I'm honing the knife, is just that. I think one useless side, a 2000, which really is only good for a knife that's fairly sharp. If you see them doing a best testing test, and this thing is 1,000 or 2,000, I challenge them to show real time how long it takes to sharpen with this. And I'll tell you something right now. I would quit before it gets sharpened because it's gonna take too long. And I've tried it, and I've done it on my other videos, so check those out. I'm gonna be talking about recommendations, and I absolutely do not recommend buying the Tumbler. When it comes to the Hone and the worksharp, these two devices I think are what's gonna be really big on the marketplace. When it comes to the construction and the quality of the build and the longevity you're gonna get, I think Hone is really gonna excel in this area. We're gonna talk about that. Hone is designed with, it's all machined aluminum, all non-rusting stainless steel connector bolts inside. It has extremely strong neodymium magnets. You'll see these here. Which again, the inventor of this thought about and saw things that were going on and realized he has to build a better mousetrap, and he literally did. So I want to talk about the holder on the Hone next. Jump back real quick to the Tumbler. Obviously 15 and 20 degrees, that's all you get, but it also has these feet that fall off. So if a foot falls off and you lose it, you're toast. This base is incredible. It is better than any base that I've used in the sense of its functionality. Now, this base is designed for a 15 and 20 degree, which is the standard degrees you'll get sharpening knives. However, there are companies out there that have announced they're now doing 12 degree sharpenings, and some are doing 17 degree sharpenings. They're all trying to find that magic number that they think is going to be appealing to either the chef or the average kitchen user. And so the blades are starting to get complicated, materials are getting complicated, and of course, what angle do I buy when it comes to a knife? I can tell you that it really isn't gonna matter. A sharp knife that's razor sharp, you're gonna love no matter what. However, longevity is the key. The higher degree of angle, the more you will get out of that knife when it comes to longer times between honing, longer times between sharpening, versus a knife that is a 12 degree knife, which is a very, very thin apex, so that knife's gonna dull much quicker. With that being said, it's a personal decision. I'm not gonna tell you, get a 15 degree knife or get a 20 degree knife. Matter of fact, if you get a German knife, they used to be only a certain degree, and now they're not, they're multiple degrees. So complex situation, we'll talk about in another video for people that really wanna learn and understand. I like giving you all the information so you can make the decision, and I will make recommendations, but I'm not gonna tell you, you should do this. With this is a type of rubber that is great. You drop it, it doesn't hurt the floor. This is fantastic. The 15 and 20 degree angle uses the neodymium magnets on here. They're massive, and when a knife goes on this thing, okay, it does not come off, all right? I can get it to move maybe a little bit, but if I put it on something like this, and I just go like this, the knife will come off and fly off. You gotta be really careful. It's not a strong magnet. And I'm not doing it super hard because the knife will go flying across the room. Other thing that's a genius with this is there's a cutout on this, and you'll see the cutout. So there's a reason why. Watch the video on the Hone Sharpener. I'll go into that in detail. This is more just the overall view of everything. But this cutout does allow you to sharpen tips that don't get impacted by the edge of the sharpener, which is very key. They thought about that in the design. Nobody else has. There is something else that's great is that the feet on this and on here don't have anything that's gonna fall off that you're gonna lose and make the sharpener inoperable. That's really important. The third thing with this sharpener is that this is patent pending. It is designed to hold the small knives. And if you watch another video I did again on my Hone Sharpener videos, I did a tiny, not even 3/4 of an inch, tiny knife. I was able to do it on here successfully. Could not do it on the other sharpeners at all, but this one let me do it. And that's another great thing is when it comes to really small knives, this thing excels, especially if you have like really small, I call them like letter opening, everyday carry knives, little small pocket knives a lot of guys carry that are small, just for like opening envelopes, a little box cutter. These are great on the Hone Sharpener. With this, you have to basically, put these next to each other and roll around. With the Hone, what I love about this is it's got the holder built in. Genius. And I don't think it was designed for that, but I can just throw these on the side, and I've got myself a complete sharpening system on my counter. Absolutely looks great. I love the aluminum on here. It's a really great device. It's gonna last, pretty much indefinitely. The construction on this device, I know for a fact, has nylon washers, which are stronger than Kevlar. They're never gonna wear out. But when it comes to rolling, you can hear, okay, that slight friction. It doesn't really feel bad, but you can hear that friction with the washers. Now, the washers separate the metal, so there's no metal on metal touching each other. Great idea to do that, and I have actually recommended to Hone that I'd like to see a ball bearing unit, which they're actually now working on. So thank you for listening. I think that, it's very important to listen to consumers. And when it comes to design and knowing what users are going to like and not like, I know for a fact people love smooth ball bearings. They don't like friction and things that feel weird, or maybe it's breaking or there's a problem. Hone shipped me a new sharpener and have now used ball bearings, which makes this spin super buttery smooth, just like the worksharp. Feels so good. And that will absolutely be something that I'd consider in this review. It is heavy, it is solid, and I like the fact that the discs are interchangeable, so it is able to get different sized knives that the smaller discs cannot get. So Hone, great when it comes to that functionality. The other thing about Hone that's great is I don't have fingernails, so I'm going to actually open this up real quick. This is just a magnetic disc, and these magnets are so strong that if you have a fingernail, you can get it off, it won't break your nail, but it's strong. Again, these are neodymium magnets. You can actually see everything affixed here. You've got your stainless bolt that will never rust. It's all Loctited. It's never going to come undone. You could theoretically break that Loctite and heat it up and undo it, but why would you ever want to do it? There's no need to do it. And Hone assured me that it's not going to ever come apart, and I believe that. This is the ceramic disc, okay? And on the back, it's a 3000. You see what the grid is. So I like the fact knowing what this is. This isn't marked, didn't know what it was, had to ask. So the ceramic on this is great. Ceramics you can only do on one side because you have that ceramic puck that you really couldn't do efficiently with two sides. This ceramic, of course, is very thick. It's gonna last a really long time. Probably will get tired of using the knife sharpener or die before this thing wears down to nothing. And if it does, and you're sharpening like crazy, inexpensive, super easy to replace. You just get it in the mail, put it on. What I love about the Hone sharpener, sets apart from everybody else, nobody else does this, is they have two-sided discs. You have two sides of your grit. So here you can see 200, here's 200. Now by the time the side wears down and this side wears down, you have to buy another disc. With this one, you flip it over and you still have another disc. So on this disc with the double-sided, you get twice the life you get as you do with a single-sided disc, such as the worksharp. I don't know how long again before this wears off, but it's just a nice touch, I think, to that. The other thing when it comes to these is that the magnets that are used on these are very critical. The neodymium magnets on these are super, super powerful. The magnets on these are pretty good. They're definitely not as powerful compared to the Hone. I mean, I can feel it by a long shot. The discs come off pretty easily. And I will say that comparing the way to remove a disc on each device is similar, but when it comes to Hone, there's actually a slot you have to get in there with your finger. If you don't have a fingernail, you can use anything to pop it open because the magnets are so strong. The other thing about the worksharp is this thing, it's quiet, spins like butter. I love the tactile feel of the worksharp. I think they did a fantastic job. When I push on it and I try to roll it, I don't hear anything, so I'm not sure the construction. I'm sure worksharp, you're watching this video, I know you will, drop a comment and let us know what's in here, what's going on. What I like about it is that getting the discs off are easy. I had no fingernails, but my finger will fit right in here and I'll just pull it off. So again, a little bit of difference in design, which I think you need to do. Both great, and I would say on both of those fronts when it comes to interchanging your disc, they're both excellent. Worksharp, I want to talk about the worksharp and its design, and then we're going to talk about the Hone and its design. And worksharp really thought out of the box on this. While everybody has been doing the rolling sharpeners that look like this, which I kind of call the spool, if you will. You see these spools with cables on, it looks like a spool. This one's not a spool. It's very unique and very different. By doing this, there's some advantages, and there's also some disadvantages. The disadvantage is you have one grit. Every time you change, you got to pop off, change the grit, pop off, change the grit. Where with this, I can do a grit and just flip it over and do the other grit. So a little more convenience with two grits, but at the end of the day, it isn't a big deal. I mean, some people complain about anything in life. It really kind of cracks me up, but it's not a complaint. It's just that you can do two things without interchanging it. There's a lot of people I know that are out there that are pretty fickle and they want things as simple as possible, as less changing as possible. Otherwise, they both work really well. And the worksharp is, it's like a rubberized grip, which feels really nice, and it's plastic. So not that that's bad, but again, I'm always concerned with something I tap that's plastic because I know me, and at some point something hits or I drop something and I crack something. Not saying that'll happen with this, it just concerns me that it's plastic. I would have loved to see this done in a aluminum which I think would have been sexy as hell and pretty much make it bulletproof indestructible. Again, you have the really beautiful logo work they always do on all their equipment. Fantastic presentation when it comes to marketing your product. And the hone has its name on the product as well. And they have to put it here because you can't put anything that raises up. I guess you could, but it'd be kind of strange on a rolling sharper filling that. It just won't work well. So you have to imprint that on the holder area of the sharpener. Now the design of this is unique because here are two wheels under this. When I first cut it out, I thought, how the hell is this thing gonna work? And once I started using it, I realized it works really well and allows you to turn or make curves really well. And I'll bet that's what they were thinking of, is how can you do this so that you can get all the curves really well without sliding? And this is almost like a three-wheel motorcycle. This design I really like. For being unique and coming up with something that's innovative and is different, I think Worksharp really nailed it. They've got some bolts in the back, which my other Worksharp products that I have, such as my Worksharp Pro Kitchen Sharpener, it's great because the wheels on these over time, especially when you're sharpening and running a knife over a wheel, which I do on that sharpener, they wore out, and I called Worksharp and they were awesome. They're like, we'll just send you some. You don't have to buy anything. So love the customer service. Offered to buy it, they just said, we'll just send them to you. And I was able to just unscrew them, replace them on my sharpener, and they're good to go, which is fantastic. These over time might have something happen or cause damage somehow because users, as we talked about, do stuff that manufacturers don't expect. So they take a knife and like, oh, what does this do? And they try something and they're like, hey, I cut my rubber, now it doesn't work, it's bumpy. I've seen it all. And that's my only concern with something like this. But this rolls buttery smooth and it turns. I mean, it's incredible and it's turning. And I think that's what's nice, because if you do have a knife that has a curve on the tip, you can follow this around very easily and it just goes with the flow. So I like that fact. I think it's a smart design. It's different, but it works. That's my opinion on these sharpeners. I think both are sufficient. I think you get a little more functionality with the hone, having two discs on each side versus the one disc you will have to change. But other than that, they both work extremely well. The one thing I will say is the worksharp is much more expensive. And I've said this before, I think there's an intrinsic value to equipment and to things that people buy and see and automatically put a number to in their head, whether they know how much it costs or not, on the price of something. And I know in this market space, the prices are kind of set around the same area that people have done. And I see the prices being similar. Hone kind of blew it out of the market. They're a lot less. You got to get the biggest bang for the buck to the consumer at the best price, but of the highest quality. And the thing that Hone told me over and over again is we're doing all we can to get them the highest quality, no cutting corners device for the best price that we could possibly do. Companies have to make money and make profit, but they also have to make something that's quality because you want to get repeat sales, you want word of mouth sales, and you want customers obviously continually coming back and buying things from you. And if you have a product that isn't great, or you have poor customer service, it's not going to happen. And customer service in this country sucks these days, if you guys know what I'm talking about. And the customer service with Hone and Worksharp is fantastic. I can actually get somebody to respond and somebody who knows what they're talking about to talk to me. I like that. Next, we're going to talk about the bases. The base on the Worksharp, I really like because it has a 15, 17, 20, and 25 degree angle. Now, I do have knives, many of them with actually 17 degree angles. I sharpened my knives to 17 degrees down from 20 a long time ago because I think that 17 degree for me works really well. It seems to cut a little better than the 20. It's a compromise where I can sharpen and hone that knife for quite a while, and I just think 17 degrees is a really good number. When it comes to my sushi knife, I have a knife that's 12 degrees. The holder on this also has these little lift areas, and I know why they said they did it, but I'm still not sure it was needed. And I've tried different knives on it, and I really haven't noticed a big difference. And the magnets on here, I can see them in position. Okay, the magnets are definitely smaller. They are definitely larger than the tumbler, and they do hold the knife very well. So when you put the knife on this, it does hold the knife well. It doesn't come off. I've tried to do that, and I think it has this as well. Very good in its holding capabilities. It's definitely not as strong, but when I've sharpened the knives with it, or I hone on that, the knife isn't moving around. It's not going up and down, and it's not moving sideways, which is really critical because on some of the other knife sharpeners, it does do that. When it comes to the base, the Hone knife sharpener, again, has the ability to do these small knives, which is really key. So if you're doing a lot of small knife work, then you definitely want to get the Hone for its strength and for its ability to do the smaller knives. Because these sharpeners are really not designed for people that are hardcore knife enthusiasts or knife fanatics or hardcore chefs that are doing a massive amount of sharpening. They're in a kitchen, they've got 10 knives to sharpen, probably not going to use this. In the regular kitchen, if I'm doing videos, reviews, I'm just doing cooking for myself and I want to sharpen a knife up, I grab this all the time and I'll give it a quick hone. Now, I used to use a honing rod. I love my Worksharp honing rod. These are great. I love them. This is traditionally what you do, and you take your knife, you see people setting it up, and they're going to hone the knife blade. That's really something that's kind of a challenge for a lot of people. They don't like doing it, or they said they can't really hone their knife properly when they're doing it. These hone your knives incredibly well. Even if you wanted to just get something to hone your knife, buy a ceramic and get a hone, and you've got probably one of the best honers you'll ever have. Or if you have one of these already and it comes with the ceramic, just use your worksharp and use that for your honing. Now, the worksharp disc, I will say, is visually thin, where this comes on the top of this. Just to me, it barely comes up generically, much less than something like this. And you can see the difference. I mean, look at this thing sticking up here, and you got this thin coating on there. So we're ready for the sharpening, and I had to think of an idea of how to make it as close to apples and apples as possible. Because I know people have comments saying you didn't use the same grits, it's not the same test. I get it. But I'm just trying to show you what we can do with the sharpeners. So I'm going to work these to a burr best as I can. Then we're going to give it a strop, and then we'll go ahead and give it a test. So for the tumbler, we're going to go ahead and work on this one. We're going to see how long it takes for us to get a burr, and we're going to speed this up, but let's go ahead and hit start. And we're going to see how far we can go until I get that burr. Now with the tumbler, I have to hold this knife down, and even if I hold it down, it's a very tough challenge because the knife keeps sinking below and hitting the rubber. So I'm gonna do the best I can on this. I'm trying to go as easy as I can, and I'm hitting the rubber, so I gotta move the knife up again and do it again. I'm gonna stop the timer while I check for the burr. Okay, I actually can feel the burr. Took about 50 passes. Okay, so I'm going to flip it over and do the other side. Same amount, 50. Start the timer. And hitting the rubber again. And that blade keeps dropping as much as I try to keep it up. And about 26 passes, I'm hitting rubber again. So I got to move it back up. Hold it down. Stop the timer. We're at almost 2 minutes. 1 minute, 59 seconds. Do my check. Check if I have any burr on the other side. I got it pretty even there. We're going to go ahead and work this one again. Start the timer. I'm starting to hit rubber. Move it up. And the knife just keeps going, falling down, which is one of the big problems that I have with the tumbler. It's just not made for small knives at all. Hitting rubber again, we'll stop. And they always say I got a little bit of burr to use this, so we'll use this side. We'll give it they show like 4 or 5 passes. We'll do the other side as well, which they say is honing the knife, so let's finish that off. We're going to stop it, and we'll leave this to see where the test is. 2 minutes and 45 seconds on this one. Very quick, but I can't change grits. I can only use the one grit. Here we go. Number 1, the tumbler. .568. 568. So now we're going to go on to the worksharp. And the worksharp comes with a 320, a 600, and the honing disc. The hone comes with a 400, a 1000 in the honing disc. So we'll work those discs through to the honing, do a strop, and do the test. As close as I can get apples to apples, 20 degrees. And we're with the 320 on this one. And we'll go ahead and start our timer. Start our sharpening. Now with the worksharp, if I hold the handle down, the knife does not sink down below the sharpener. So I don't have to keep resetting it all the time. And again, we're going to go for a burr. And this is a 320, so it should get a burr fairly quick. And I have the burr if you can hear it. Just rub my knife, rub my fingernail at the top, and I'm catching. So I'm not catching back here, but I'm catching up here. So let's work it a little bit more in the back. And that's the nice thing about this is you can feel that burr. So we're going to go right back here and focus on that area, which is hard with a little knife, but you can do it. Get it evened out. Let's see where we're at. Okay, now I got the burr. Stop the clock while I'm talking. And when I hold down the back of this handle, right here. It doesn't come above the, let's go ahead and check for a burr. Stop the clock. So I got a burr about 21 seconds into it with a 320, which is a coarse grit. Turn it around, we're gonna do the other side as well. And by the way, you can do it this way. I actually do it kind of backwards, I like that. Or if you want, you can turn around and do it the same way on the other side. Doesn't make a difference, but I'm right-hand dominant, so I like to just keep things on the right-hand side. Either way is fine. So let's go ahead and we'll start and go again. And I want to take this burr down. I think 25 is going to do it. No burr. No burr. So we evened that out. So now what we're going to do is we're going to keep it on the 20. We're going to take off our 320 grit, and we're going to go to our 600 grit, and we're going to go 600 until we get a burr. Start our timer. Stop it. Feel for the burr. And again, I'm getting a little bit of a burr. It's all the way back. That's good. We're going to turn it around. We're going to do it again. Start. I'll hold this down. Good 25 on that side as well. We're going to feel this. Okay. No burr, and it's not catching, so we don't have a burr, which is good. I want to leave it like that. And then we're going to go to the ceramic. Start the timer. Do 25 on that side. Let's do 25 on this side. Stop the clock. We're at 1 minute and 49 seconds on this one. Okay. Now we're going to go on to number 3, the hone. Go to the hone 20 degrees using our small knife guide, which this is great. This fits right in here, and you don't have to hold it because it holds it appropriately and nothing hits the rubber. So we're going to go ahead and reset our timer, and we're going to start with number 1, which is the 400. Then we're going to go to number 2, which is the 1000, and then we'll go to the ceramic. It's a close thing at apples to apples. Let's go ahead and start our timer. And you can see I don't have to hold this at all. Check for the burr, stop the timer. I can feel a little bit of a burr already that fast with that. So let's go ahead and hit it one more time. I really want to get that burr established. Stop the timer. And I definitely have a burr. Turn it over. Do the same thing. Start the timer. Same amount on that side. No burr. We'll go ahead and stop the timer, which I forgot to do. So 10 seconds went on it, so we'll take that 10 seconds off. And we'll go ahead and switch over now to the 1000. Stop our timer. And it's barely there. A little bit more. And 1000 is going to take you longer than a 600 to get that burr, but it will happen. Stop the timer. I've definitely got a burr. Turn that over, hit the other side, start our timer. Stop the timer, and no burr on that side, no burr on this side. So we're going to go ahead and do our ceramic. We're going to take off, got a lot of metal coming on this, you can see here. On that, so we're going to go ahead and just wipe that off. Look at that, okay? And then we're going to go ahead and put our ceramic on this, but we'll just pop this off, okay? Easy to do, it's just the magnets are super, super strong. I'm going to go ahead and put our ceramic on, like so. Make sure that's clean. Got our ceramic, and we'll go ahead and start our timer. Stop it, flip it over, and start it. Stop it. Take 10 seconds off. It's 1:56, so we'll say 1:46 seconds on this one. Now I recommend you get a good leather strop. This is a leather strop to give it the final finish on this. I slide it back till it catches, and I know that's my angle and muscle memory. Just gonna go across here, very light. 10. Then I'm gonna go 5, 5, 2, and the final one. Okay, so we got that. Feels pretty sharp. Go ahead and do this one as well. We'll start with our 10, 5, 5, 2, and 1. And we have the hone finally, and we'll give this one a go. 10, 5, 5, 2, and 1. And now we'll get the best tester, and we'll see what our scores are. First up is number 1, the tumbler, and I'm going to put this knife in the apex up flush against my finger where I can feel it. That way it guarantees that I'm getting the same exact spot on all these blades. 494. Got 494 on the tumbler. It definitely isn't as sharp as anywhere near a factory edge. Matter of fact, if you look at the scale, 494 is edge needs maintenance or repair. So it's actually almost 500 still. I worked this to a burr, and I got 494. Now we're going to go on, and we're going to go for the worksharp. Knife number 2, we're going with the worksharp to see how we do. Again, put it into the fulcrum. Just touch my finger there so I know it's the same exact spot on the knife. We'll go and do a test. 313. We are definitely back to factory sharpness, 313. And if you look at the best scale, 313 is right at new high-end cutlery. It is basically here, as you can see. Get you in this, see this? So new high-end cutlery, which is perfect. And again, if I spend a lot more time and work this back and forth, I'm sure I can get this down even better than this, or sharper, I should say, not better, but sharper. But 313, I'm going to town, I'm cooking tonight, I'm going to use this, 313, I'm good to go. Next up, the hone. And finally, number 3, the hone rolling knife sharpener. Again, I'm going to zero it out. We want to actually make sure that we're in the same spot on the fulcrum, up against my finger. So every test is as close as I can get to identical. Zeroed out, here we go. $298. $298 on the hone. And if you look at our best scale, 298 below 300 is still new high-end cutlery because we got to get below 250 to get to the next level. But we are restored to factory sharpness on 2 of the 3 knives. That means that the tumbler is out. It received the lowest score, and we are down to my final opinions on the rolling knife sharpeners. I'm going to show you a chart. It's going to have my score, and here is how it added up. Before we start our shootout final score and award a winner, it's very important that you like and subscribe to this channel. Also, put your comments down below what you thought and what you'd like to see next in the way of reviews when it comes to knife sharpeners. I have companies contacting me all the time to send product for reviews, so it's really important that those subscriptions increase, those likes increase, and we get those comments going because we're really trying to build a community in the cooking world and the cooking community and the knife sharpening community for those that are just getting into knife sharpening. Again, I'm no expert. I just have a lot of experience using the knives based on my kitchen cooking, and I've really gotten into sharpening, and I think it's something important that a lot of people don't do in the kitchen, or people that are barbecuing, and they end up taking their knives to a store and paying money when you can do it yourself and save money indefinitely. So without further ado, the envelope, please. Here are the final scores for the 3-way shootout between the hone, worksharp, and the tumbler rolling knife sharpener. Possible score is a perfect 100 out of 100. For build material, the hone receives a 10 out of 10. Solid aluminum core, its aluminum internal workings, and its stainless steel bolt assembly gives it the highest score. Worksharp receives an 8 out of 10. It has more moving parts, it has some rubber components to it as well as plastic components, and therefore received a slightly lower score. The tumbler received a 6 out of 10 due to its wood components, which could swell and cause problems with the device. For quality overall, the hone receives a 9 out of 10, the worksharp an 8 out of 10, and the tumbler a 6 out of 10. For magnetic force, the ability to hold those discs in place and on the device, the Hone receives a 10 out of 10 with its massive neodymium magnets. The worksharp receives a 9 out of 10 with a solid holding those discs, and the Tumbler receives a 1 out of 10 only because it has one disc and nothing to interchange. For small knives, the ability to hold the knives without making any adjustments and sharpening the knife without movement, the Hone receives a 10 out of 10. The worksharp a 9 out of 10, and the Tumbler a 2 out of 10. For the ergonomic grip, the feel, ability to roll, and the smoothness of the sharpening, the Hone receives an 8 out of 10. The worksharp gets a perfect score, 10 out of 10. The ergonomic grip is fantastic on the worksharp. And the Tumbler is the same as the Hone due to its spool design with an 8 out of 10. For compact storage, the ability to keep everything in one place in as tight and compact as possible, the Hone receives a 9 out of 10. The worksharp also receives a 9 out of 10, and the Tumbler receives an 8 out of 10. For disc options, that is the various disc grits that you get with the device and the ability to get additional grits that are currently available on the market, Hone receives a 9 out of 10. The worksharp receives an 8 out of 10, and the Tumbler is a 1 out of 10, as there is only one grit and they are not interchangeable. For ease of disc removal, the Hone receives an 8 out of 10. The worksharp a perfect score, 10 out of 10. Those 3 different cutouts and the ease of getting that off gives it a perfect score. And the Tumbler, again, a 1 out of 10, as there is no ability to change the discs. When it comes to sharpening and the results on the testing that I did, the Hone received a 10 out of 10 because it did receive the sharpest score on the best scale. Worksharp a 9 out of 10, and the Tumbler a 5 out of 10. When it comes to cost to value, that is the price you're going to pay for the device and the value you get for that price, the Hone receives a 10 out of 10 with its close to $100 price point for the interchangeable disc set that you first get, and then of course the ability to buy additional discs at a very reasonable price. The worksharp receives an 8 out of 10. As of this filming, there are no additional discs you can get for the worksharp rolling knife sharpener. The Tumbler receives a 6 out of 10 on the cost to value ratio. And the final results are the Hone with a score of 93 out of 100, the worksharp with a score of 88 out of 100, and the Tumbler with a score of 44 out of 100. Therefore, the champion in this shootout is the Hone Rolling Knife Sharpener. I hope you enjoy this shootout. Please leave your comments below. Again, like and subscribe, and we'll see you on the next one. Smoke on, baby!